right, how we doing? Sam here with you. It's Monday, December 10th. And we try and do an update here on Bitcoin after a weekend. So just give a quick update here. There's some couple of things worth noting here in a potential alternate count here that I think we could make there's a reasonable case that we're very close to a bottom down here. That we have a range here between 3,200 and 3,000. And I think there's a fairly strong case that we could bottom down here. So we're trying to finish, I've been through this several times here, but we'll just in quick review, trying to finish this as an ABC. Right? And that would be finishing the X wave up here. This would give us our Y down here. So potentially there's a case to be made for is it the low? Well, certainly a significant low to be in this range here from 3,000 to 3,200, right? And we've seen, I've shown, I don't know how many times, that the algo pull. So we know that's down there at 3,200. Now we have the wolf range here. So I've just taken, you can see it here. Let's take that off here. So here, if I can just wiggle this here. So you see from this pivot. So I'm just taking the swing low, right? Swing high to swing low, right? So this is the range right here. So this, if I just show you here in the white lines, that's the range. And then this is the doubling of the range. So if we come down and double that range, you see where that green line is. So if I take that off. So right here, we have just some pretty remarkable confluence down here. So we are literally tagging the range expansion here within ticks of the negative 23.6 from the very largest algo pull that from that February 18th 50. Now, in addition to that, note this. So if we take the length of this swing here, the proposed A wave projected from the B, and I pull this over, let's get that right on there. Well, look where the 1618 is. I mean, this is just massive confluence down here at this level, which happens to be within ticks 3240, 3250, within ticks of the low. I mean, it's just massive confluence down here. So what do you do with that? Well, can we complete a countdown here? Well, that's where it's been very tricky. So looking here, I think there's a fairly strong case. Again, I've been through this several times here, but just to show it to you again, here's potentially the 1, the 2, the 3 is in. Now, where's the 4? 4 is where it gets a little tricky here. So 5 would be down here. So potentially at the low end of our range here, I think there's a fairly strong case for 3,000. Nice round number. Markets like that. So that will be a magnet to try and pull down there. But if you're an Elliott trader, you're looking at this going, well, that sure looks impulsive. So can we finish down here? Is there a count that would support the idea that we could finish either at the within our little hot box here, or potentially at the low end of that range? Well, let's break it down here. So let's go down. Let's see. I've got it over here. Let's see if I think this might be easier to see it. So let me go. Here's a 2-hour. Let me open this up. Well, if we're coming down here, here's where it gets interesting. Now, when I'm uncertain, so here it is without anything on it. When I'm uncertain and I'm looking at this going, not quite sure. There's a couple of different things that can be. Well, I go to the best Elliott trader I know, conveniently, happens to be my partner. So my partner's looking at this, and Quan, you guys have seen several of his videos. You know, he just has a great eye for this. And one of his strengths is spotting triangles where other people may not. So he's proposing that we might have a triangle in here, which I like that because that gives us the potential to actually complete the countdown here. So in that count, so let me open this up a little bit more so we can see it. So here's the tricky part. So at first, I don't want that. Let's see. At first glance, you look at this and think, oh, ABC, right? So we got a 3, 3, 5. So we get a nice flat into this pivot up here, and down we go. Well, if that's the case, how do we account for this? Then that would suggest 1, 2. Then that would imply that if that's the 1, 2, then we've gone again into an impulse here. And while that still is certainly a valid scenario here, so the thinking would be, let's see if I can draw it here for you. So if this is done here, if this is an ABC, if we get a flat here, and we come down here, then we've got to go 1, 2, some sort of 3 coming in. The 4 and the 5 takes us below our range, and now we're going down into that 2,800 range that we had looked at as an alternate count, and I still have that count as a possible in that $26 to $2,800 range. I look at Quan's count, and I look at it here, and I go, well, so we'd have a complex A. Is there potentially a triangle here? And I think it actually works quite well. Complex A, three-wave B. Up we go for the C, D, E. Well, if that's the case, then here's our 4. Right? You can make a pretty strong case here. So what that suggests is that then coming down, I can go 1, 2, 3. Potentially, the 4 is already in. Potentially. Got a nice little ABC into the 4, right to the 50, from the 2 to the low. Let me take this off here since we've got that established. All right, so we can clear it up here. So if this is the 4, well, here's where we're, so you can see I have an alert on it. So that would give us a potential algo play down here at 3,028. So there's a really strong case that we could be finishing here. So far, right, so far, if this is correctly identified, we have an impulse. We have a nice little ABC. Now we have, the symmetry of the 2 to the 4 isn't ideal, but it works. 2 ABC into the 4. So we're gonna know now. Do we have? Let's go to the 1 hour. See if we can get a better look into that. Do we have a 1, 2, 3, 4? I'm not sure that's done yet here. So this remains, we need a little bit more evidence here. But if this is correctly identified here, we've got a pretty reasonable target down here. So we'd potentially have something along these lines. So if we just draw it out with trend lines, and we do it this way, well, it's not a perfect channel. Let's move that up a bit. Get this down here. So ABC into the 4. Well, do we have a 1 just yet? Even down to the 15-minute. Let's look in here. So we don't get a clean 5. So you might be able to make the case that we're doing a diagonal here. So if this is 1, 2, this bar here is problematic. So this would be 3, 4, and maybe we're going down for a 5. So we're finishing in a diagonal. So we'd have something along these lines. A, B, C. Well, this is. See, here's a little bit of a problem. So I got to go down even lower than that. See, so where if that's an ABC, let's go. Got to go down to, and I don't like to do this here. Let's go down to the 5-minute. So we'd have to go see here. This just straight rip up. So I'm down to a 5-minute. So how are we gonna get a count in there? Well, it's a bit problematic. So could we go A? So we'd have 1. Let's see if we can count it out. So we could go. Come here. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our A wave. A wave's in. It's not the prettiest B, but you can probably squeeze one out of there. So you get an A, B here, and then we got a 1, 2, 3, 4. Boys, I suppose you'd have to go here for the C down here, straight up into the 4. Of course, that's a bit problematic because we can't get any subdivision. We just got a giant wick here, at least here on Coinbase Pro. So if this is the 4 and we're coming down here, well, we can look for some tell as to whether or not we're going to hold into this diagonal pattern. If this is the 3 low, well, we'd look for something technical around the 50 here. So we don't. Let's take that's still there. So ABC, if that's the 4, it's hard to make that call because we've just got one 15-minute bar here. So if we think, okay, screw the Elliott. What can I see? I got a high to a low. What do? We go to a 50. Where's my target? Well, if I come down here and I finish that, if this is the 4 taking me to, and this is just a straight algo play, and we're coming here for the 5, well, we're not done yet. So could we be, maybe there's an extension in the 5th, possible. We don't know what this looks like. Is this the 1 of the 5? Or potentially are we doing maybe more complexity in the correction, since that's just straight up? Maybe we have something like this before we go down? Hard to call that right now. So I'm not an advocate for shorting down here at these levels. That's me personally, but certainly people are doing well with that. So this potentially now, even if we look and say, well, could this be, if this is our 4, maybe I have the 1. So maybe we go 1. This is problematic, right? I'm struggling with that bar. So what do we do with that? We can't get any subdivision in it. So, but because we get this low here, I think we've got to allow for the possibility here that this is. So let me take this off. So if this is ABC, let's consider the alternate. How can we finish down here? So if this is the low of the A, which is I suppose that's possible. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got a diagonal here. So here's the problem with that. So if we look at that, so here this looks like we can get an impulse out of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Does that work as an A wave? Well, let's take that off here. Let's see if we can get the breakdown here. If this is, let's go back one. If that's 1, 2, and we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got an impulse here in the third. All right, so 4. Now, that's the problem with the thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got an overlap here. So the 5 wave here is problematic. So that steers me down lower. So I can't have the impulse in a diagonal. So if that's correctly identified as the 4, I got to relabel this. See, this is just a problem, right? So 1, 2, A, B, C. If it's correctly identified, if this is the 1, and it's A, B, C into the 2, it ain't gorgeous. 1, 2. Well, let's look at this. So assuming, because we've got a diagonal, if that's the 3. So to the 50, we come right to, you can look at it and keep it simple. Say, well, okay, so here's prior resistance. We probably look left here. We've wicked up here several times. We've had these spikes. Look here, we did the same thing. So we've come up here, so you can make a reasonable assumption here that, what do I want here? That buyers here were looking to dump here. So people that bought it here have been underwater. They can get out at a scratch essentially, or with a small loser. So prior resistance, that's just people getting out, could be, and now we roll over. So where are we going? Well, if the A is down here, if this is going to be our A wave, well, then we got to try and build a roadmap off of that. If we finish here, okay, so then we'd have an A wave. Oh, pardon me. We'd have, depends if we're going to be diagonal or not. So we have a contender here for coming off of this 4. So let me raise that degree up here. That's bothering me. Okay, so there we go. So if we have a leading diagonal here, we're just putting in the 1 of a smaller degree. So let's take that down. Let's go submicro. Okay, could that be the 1? So if we come down here, okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. If that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did I do there? There's 5. Okay, so 1, 2. Does that work? Well, this is the 5 of this one here. So I got to change the color. See, that's why I suggest you do that, because it'll keep you from getting lost in your count. So, all right, so I've got a mess here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now let's go up a degree. If this is the 4, can we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Now let's get that so I don't lose track. Let's go up to submicro. 1, potentially now. Here's the 1. So if we do that, let me get this off just to clear it up a little bit. If that were the 1, then we're looking for the 2 right here in this zone. So here's where we'd be looking for the push down to try and finish this. So if we can go from here, again, I don't know where this 1 low is, but if we come into that, then we're looking for something. We'd be looking for something longer here, A, B, C into the 4, and we come down, finish in the 5. Possible roadmap here. Now that gets us. Now we're at 3,100. Here's that longer term play that we were looking at. Here's the low end of the range, 29.93. Could we finish down here? Could we? Well, if this plate, my favorite feature of TradingView. Okay, there we go. So if this comes down here, is that reasonable? Well, it stays in sync with this longer degree target, this range from 3,000 to 3,200. So it's, God damn it. So it's a contender. So we can look at that 1, 2, 3. So let's think about that third. So symmetry is right? Again, we don't have a 3 yet. 3 could be down here. So if we're thinking 1, 2, well, we know this would be very close to the 1618, the negative 100. Well, here, we'll do it. So if this one, again, I'm hypothetical, and this is 2. Let's say we go to the 618. Well, here's the 1618. So this is would be our target for the third. 4, maybe not that high. Let's bring this down. Again, this is purely hypothetical. 3, 4. I'm just looking for where's the roadmap that can get us to finish down here. So could we go 5, 5? God damn it, that's annoying. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. Okay. So could we finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So this is not unreasonable for our third. Question is, where are we now? Well, this is our problem bar, creates the diagonal. If this is correctly identified as the third, we can. We're not getting any help here. No volume really yet. So 3, 4. This is our contender for the 1. So we got to watch this. Again, if you're comfortable going short here, there are definitely trades here. Right, you're on a powder keg down here potentially, because if this starts to get any traction, you know there's going to be just a shitload of stops that are going to get hit, that are going to give it fuel, which is likely what that kind of movement is. Right, somebody gets filled up here. All right, so I think there's a reasonable case to be finishing down here. So low end of the range, maybe your 2,800 to 3,000. We've got this range here that we've identified. You see I've got my alerts on it. If we're coming down that far, so let's see if we can put the whole thing back together. So that would put us back here. So we'd be in the 4 here. Let me push this up a little. Bring it up here. So we'd have this as our finish. So we'd be finishing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take a look at that. Not unreasonable. I don't hate it. I think that could play quite well here. So we're in the range here, just trying to finish this last leg that sets up the entire thing completing. And we're going to be very close to those longer term targets. Now, we don't have to go down here. Nothing says we must go down here. But again, it's, if you put your Elliott hat on, it's hard to see how we finish without one more leg down. Not that it's never happened again. This is we try and focus on the probable, not what's possible. Anything's possible. Well, what's the probable path based on what we can see here? All right, so here would be the very long term. So that's, pull that off here. So if we come back to this, okay, so where we were over here, where we had this range here, so the low end of this range is 2,900. Putting it back together here, there's 2,900 right where I've got that, and that is tied to, I don't think I'm going to be able to show you. Let's see. If I go to an 8 hour, we're coming all the way back here to this pivot. Right, that's the thing I'm keying off of. Now, can we finish here? We're going to go further into the range. We have some longer term targets that are even further down here at 2,200. Can't rule them out. Cannot rule them out. All right, so here's the biggie, right? So here's the big 50. Here's the 23 of that. A break of that, right? And we're heading down to potentially more structure. Here's structure down here at 1,300. Here's the big one that we're watching over here. That's the one I've got my eye on here. This is 3,000, right? So we know the market, that round number you can see here, you've got a nice little low volume node sitting right there, right? So we did not have acceptance there as the market rejected it here. We had a perfect pivot. Could we do it again? Well, yeah, we could do it again. So that's how I think we can finish here. So this as the 4 plays rather nicely. We'll have to see here. So, of course, in terms of a new trade setting up, what I would suggest, wait. Don't try and pick the low. Wait, get a motive off the low, and then take the retrace, try and get that. That's what we're after. So the safer way to do it, let's get the pivot. If it lines up with all of this technical confluence down here, beautiful. Let's get a motive wave off the low. If we can get that, then we can trade the 2 looking for the 3. All right, there's 20 minutes. That's probably enough. Give you enough to chew on there. That's what we're watching over at TDU. We like this. We like the potential here for the pivot. Lines up nicely. Okay, guys, that'll be a wrap here. I've got a couple more I'll be back for today, but watching closely. All right, see you.